friends. Welcome to Stampin' Peace with Mary Nabe. Hello, Julie, Lori, Vesta, Tony, and Jean. I'm happy to have you all here. Thanks to those of you who have already shared this live video. If you have not shared, I hope you'll do that now. And if you're watching replay later, please share the live or the replay video then as well. Oh gosh, hi Sharon. Who was that said that? Lori, you couldn't find me. What happened? You're always here. Yes, Stampin' Peace with Mary Nabe on Facebook is always where I am doing Facebook Lives. Hi Kathleen. So happy Wednesday evening, March 20, what is it, 2nd? Yes, March 22nd. So it's been a long, busy day. Very productive, was up at 6:30, did computer work until 10 when I had a telehealth appointment, and then worked some more, did a quick run to the grocery store because Andrea and John will be here for dinner tomorrow. And at 3:30, I had a Stampin' Up! Zoom quarterly meeting for gold and above demonstrators. Super informative today. And they also try to find guest speakers to bring in each quarter. And this couple, Phil and Krista Franks, are actually from right here in Columbus, Ohio. So I was very interested in hearing about their owl and key business. They have a podcast, they wrote a book, and just some really good information to put things in perspective when you're thinking about what success means to you in your business and your life. So I really enjoyed that and am very happy I was able to make it live there. And then I've just been working since. So hope you have had a great day wherever you are and whatever you are doing. Quick announcement that the Seaside Bay bundle and the what is it called, dainty flowers or dainty designs, I think, bundle are both back in stock. So if you've been waiting for those because the dies were out, you can find them now in the online store. And because in order to celebrate that Seaside Bay bundle is back because so many people were waiting for it, I've prepared a card with a free project sheet that will be on my blog on Friday, March 24th. You'll be able to find it at stampinpeace.com. So be sure and pick up your free project sheet on Friday. And I also wanted to show you this, and I forgot to look up the name of this kit. My little flower just came off. But this was, or is, a project kit in our online store, and it's super cute. I changed mine up a little bit because this is just cardboard and it was bare, and I wanted to put it up on my wall behind me, and I thought, well, that cardboard color isn't going to show well on the wall. So I just inked my ring all the way around. And then I used the black and white gingham to make a bow. And I've got some black baker's twine that I'll hang it from. So a quick, easy project and very inexpensive kit. So you can look for that in the online kits collection. It does look pretty in black. Thank you, Gian. Hi there, Claudia and Bonnie, Margaret, Carol, so many of you here tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tonight, well, I should tell you, on Monday's Facebook Live, I introduced a stamping technique where we used the two-tone Flora die, the largest die in the set, die cut it from basic white cardstock and used this as a stencil on top of a piece of basic white cardstock the same size. And from that, and adding color with the small blending brushes, I made these 2 cards. So I used the inked die cut for the front of one card, and then that cardstock underneath that picked up the excess ink is what I used for the card front of my second. These cards are, along with the replay video, cutting dimensions, Stampin' Up! Products used, everything is on my blog today at stampinpiece.com, so be sure and check it out if you've missed that, or if you want to go back and watch the replay or note the products I used. So today we're again using that die and some of the others from the two-tone Flora bundle and the Something Fancy bundle. And we're gonna make a few different cards because, you know, when I show products, I like to show you multiple ways of using them, whether it be techniques or layouts. I'd like to give you more than one option to use them, because you know the more ways we can use our products, the better our money is spent, right? We get more bang for the buck. I'm going to flip my camera around now, and while I do that, would you please share this live video and invite others to join us on this March 24th evening. What? Come on. Doesn't want to move. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to make 2 different cards with you, again featuring the two-tone Flora bundle, and I have most of the dies out, but there are dies to coordinate with all these flowers and leaves, as well as this large background die. And then we'll also be using the Something Fancy stamp set and couple of the coordinating dies to cut out those sentiments. If you love dies, this is a great one to have. I love the variety. The font is kind of fun and different than many of ours that we already have. And then of course the dies you can use not only for these sentiments, but many others as well in other dies or Stampin' die sets that we have. So for the first card, it's very much tone on tone with just a punch of color. And I'm using a basic white thick card base. And I went ahead and pre-cut or pre-die cut some of these. So I have them ready, but I am, because we're gonna make at least 2, maybe 3 cards if we have time. But I do want to give you a couple tips about die cutting with this. So when I use this, I cut my cardstock to 5.5 by 4 inches. Okay, 5.5 by 4 inches. And that is just about the size of the die. You can see it's just a tiny bit longer. And I line up the sides and the top and bottom. And oops, I've got it. There we go. And you know that whenever we have straight lines on our dies, we want to turn them at an angle just a little bit, because when they go straight through parallel with the rollers in our machine, they tend to, the rollers tend to jump, they tend to hop over that edge. So you don't get as good a cutting impression. So turn it just a little bit. You won't get that jump or that bump in the rolling. And because this die is so intricate. And by intricate, I mean it just has so many different cuts. It's very detailed. I want to go back and forth through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine several times. And then when I'm finished, I want to flip this over and take a look. Now you can see everywhere cut very well, except for right up here in this area. So that tells me I need to go back over that section again. And this time I'm even going to move it to a different place on my platform and turn it the other direction. And then I'm going to roll it through. One other thing that you can do, and I'm just going to tear this off because I don't need the whole piece. You can just take a piece of typing paper, something like that, that works as a shim. I've been doing this cutting without it, but I wanted to show you that something as thin as a piece of paper, I would not do a cardboard, and probably not even start with a piece of cardstock, just a piece of maybe copy paper, a notepad paper, something like that. And oops, I guess I'll do it this way. And that creates just the slightest bit of added thickness that will also help that area cut cleanly. But again, you don't often need a shim, but if you think you do, that's what I would use. And here you can see now it's cut out really well, right? We can see all the sharp edges. Let's see. Okay, Suzanne, I want you, when you use this die again, I want you to use some of these tips I've given you today and let me know if those tips help you. And if not, you and I can do either a FaceTime or a Zoom, and I can watch what you're doing and walk you through the process if that would help. You just let me know. I'm more than open to doing that with you because I want, and sometimes it's just a little trick or tip that takes you from frustration to getting everything cut out just the way it should be. So use these tips and give it a try and let me know if it works. And if not, you and I will connect and we'll get it worked out for you. Same goes for anybody else. And anytime that happens, ask your upline or any demonstrator that maybe you watch and feel comfortable asking, because when you purchase products, any kind of craft product, not just Stampin' Up, I consider that an investment, right? None of us need, well, I guess I kind of need for sanity's sake and my peace and that sort of thing. I kind of consider this a need, but you know what you know what I mean. A hobby is not necessarily a need, right? So you can look at it like you're an investment, and I want you to get the most you can out of your investment in Stampin' Up! Products, all right? I'm happy to help anybody. All right, so now I've cut this out, and I can lay this on here and create a beautiful tone-on-tone card, right? I got a few of these things in here. You know, one other thing I should mention, after you use the die, take a look and see if there are any pieces of cardstock or paper left in there. In fact, I see one right here. And the reason I say to poke those out right away is that if you leave those tiny bits of cardstock or paper building up in there, it will not cut as well either, all right? So always make sure those are out. Do it right after you finish using the die, and that will be ready the next time around. And of course, dies like this create a tremendous mess. You should see my floor right now, but it is what it is. Nothing a vacuum can't take care of. So this can be my tone-on-tone card. I'm going to show you my sample, and then I'm going to do something a little bit different with this one. So here's a sample of an easy bridal shower card or wedding card. And I just, my pop of color here is one of our neutrals, gray granite, but you can make it any color you want, just simple and easy, right? I'm gonna change this up just a little bit by cutting away the straight edge around the die cut. I see a couple more of these things just hanging on. There we go. So I'm going to take my cutter, and if you're using your paper trimmer, you need to be very gentle when you're making the cuts. Go slow and steady to make sure you're cutting and not ripping, okay? The other thing you do, if you're not quite comfortable with this, you can also use, you can also use your paper snips to cut away the edge. So if you think you're going to be more comfortable doing it this way, feel like you have a little more control with the paper snips, go ahead and do that. You can also just cut your cardstock smaller. All right, you can just cut your cardstock smaller if you don't want that straight edge all the way around. So cut the cardstock smaller before you even do the die cutting. But I wanted to show it to you both ways, because sometimes we make that decision after we've done the die cutting, right? We're not sure if we want that border on or not, because we know it gives us a different look each time. So now this is what I have. My little leaf came off up there, but that's okay. So as you can see, it just gives a very different look to it. The other thing you can do is trim away some of these parts that are just kind of like, maybe I would say like little, not completed parts of flowers and leaves, say it that way. And that too gives you a different look. All right, so here's part of the rose, the leaves. Not sure what this is, probably part of a flower, but I'm going to cut that away from the corner. I think I'll even cut this. But you're getting the idea, right? Maybe cut these leaves apart. And you can decide how much or how little you want to cut away. Now this is part of the flower and the leaf, so I'm going to leave that. I'm going to come in here and take off this little flower edge. Trying to decide here. And let's see, where else do I want to cut? I'm seeing a flower here. I'll cut this part away. I'm just cutting where there are partial flowers or leaves. And I'll cut this away. And you just do what feels right. There's not a right or wrong here. Remember that. There's not a right or wrong. Some people are always wanting to like, oh, I got to do it just like her. No, you don't. No, you don't. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to shape this just a teeny bit. And I think that's ready to go. The other thing you can do is you could just cut out flower sections if you want. It's totally up to you. But anyways, so now I think I'm ready to lay this down, all right? And again, you're just getting a different look. If you're somebody who likes something more whimsical, maybe more shabby chic looking, you might want to go this route. If you're somebody who likes nice clean edges, things symmetrical, whatever, I would leave the straight edges on. And before I do this, and again, I'm going to use gray granite as my pop of color. I'm going to need some scrap paper and a blending brush. And I'm just going to add a tiny bit of color around the edges of my card front. So in a way, I'm casing that sample card, but I'm making some changes to it. I think this gray granite color is good. If you like something to have sort of a worn or antiqued look, I think this is a great color for that. But I just wanted to put a little color behind my die cut. And then I'm ready to lay this on top. And do you see how that's changed the look of it? Right, I agree, Margaret. Just gives it a little bit of a vintage feel. And then I'm going to just add a little bit of multi-purpose glue, just putting it in some of the larger areas of the die cut. Don't try to get the glue everywhere. It'll end up making a mess for you. And just kind of dot that glue. Remember, a dot does a lot. This glue goes a long way. Little goes a long, long way. I feel like, and I don't remember who, but I feel like one of you viewers at one time added to that saying, a dot is a lot. But I can't remember what the additional part was. A mountain is a mess. I can't remember. A puddle, I don't know. I don't remember. So if that's you, go ahead and share that. That dot is a lot comes from my friend Jackie. She's also on my team. But she is a retired kindergarten teacher. And I thought, oh, isn't this exactly what you would expect to hear from a kindergarten teacher, right? Two-tone Flora set. Yes. Yes, Kathy, two-tone Flora set. A little dab will do ya. That's something my mom used to say. Okay. I didn't like that one piece sticking out. And then we're just going to go ahead and, that's not the one I wanted to stamp on. I've got a piece of scrap paper and I'm going to stamp that same sentiment. Or should we use something different? What else is in there? The other one says the sample, and I have so many things going on here. I just lost my sample. Here it is. Here's to beautiful beginnings and happily ever after. A nice saying for weddings, bridal showers, right? Let's see. Oh, we could do this one. I didn't forget your birthday. I'm just stretching out the celebration. Anybody else ever need those belated birthday cards? Yep, and when I need it, I usually don't have it. And before I stamp that, I want to make sure, because I believe the die I pulled out is going to be too small for this. Well, let's see. Oh, it's going to be close, but let's see if it works. We might have to go to the next larger die. I didn't stamp very evenly, so I'm going to stamp that again. Did you notice what I did the second time I stamped that? Because I stamped a little light on this bottom corner, when I stamped it the second time, I just pressed a flat hand on top of it. Sometimes that gives us a more even impression than just holding it and pushing, okay? And here's my die. Yeah, I think it's a little squished in there. So let's go to the next size up, or even one of our other shape dies. How about this one? I don't think I've used that. Yeah, let's use that one. And for this, I can, let me put this away. I noticed when I was going through comments from Monday's Facebook Live, and I had all those, what, I think 4 ink pads open. And apparently at one point I didn't have them all closed, and I noticed in the comments somebody said something about close up that ink pad, and somebody else says, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. So thank you for watching out for me, even though I didn't see your comment till later. And trust me, that would not be the first time. That would not be the first time I put my sleeve in an ink pad. Did you ever notice there's not a quiet way to close those Stampin' Cut and emboss machines? Look at that. Now on my sample card, I made a bow at the top of the tag. I'm not going to do that with this card, but I am going to use that same pretty ribbon. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put adhesive all across the back. And then I'm just going to weave some of this ribbon. I'm sorry, I think I was out of the viewing for a moment. Then I'm just going to weave some of this ribbon back and forth behind it. Okay, I think I'm gonna start again. I'm gonna scoot over and make my loops just a little smaller. I don't want to overwhelm because we already have a lot going on with this die, right? Doesn't have to be perfect. And a couple of loops and a tail on each side will be fine. You can do a little less if you want. You can see this is something you're just gonna play with until you get it the way you want it. I would say that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to pop this up with some dimensionals. With the ribbon, you can do something like this. You could make a little, I don't know what to call this, like a little flag type thing on the side. If you wanted, you could tie a bow like I did on my sample card. But this is just a little something different. Oh, for heaven's sakes, Mary. You can tell I'm tired, can't you? So there's a tone-on-tone card, kind of a vintage feel since we added the ink around the outer edges, and then a pop of color with gray granite. Still a very pretty card, a totally different look. This one, I have to admit, is a little outside of my comfort zone. I tend to be somebody who likes clean lines, things like that. So tonight I was challenging myself to use this card as my inspiration, but make my second have a totally different look and vibe, different feel to it. And I think I accomplished that with this vintage-like card. So that will be one of the cards I'll be giving away this evening. And let's keep moving right on. Again, with each of these cards, I'm using a white, basic white thick cardstock for the base, and then basic white cardstock for the die cut. Now here, and remember, let's see, I'm looking for, somebody pick a color for me. And we're gonna put this color behind. We're gonna put this color behind the die cut. Somebody throw out the name of a color. Could be your favorite, could be a spring color. I'm just gonna trim off the very bottom of this. Any thoughts on color? Certainly you're not gonna let me choose the color of cardstock this time, are you? I always get to choose. Nope, nobody? Okay, I guess I'll have to choose. Oh, a pale pink. Judy Armstrong says pale pink. Well, how about, since she's saying pale pink, I'm going to take that to mean blushing bride. What do you think of that, Judy Armstrong? Hey, Judy, it's nice to have you. I haven't seen you for a while. So you could do a blushing bride card base, or instead, since I already have the basic white card base ready, I want to cut this to just fit behind the white. And then, so we'll get that color, but we'll still get a white edge as well. Oh, those are all great colors for spring, especially. So this looks to be, yes, it is 4 inches, the right width. I'm gonna check the length here. Yeah, just not quite 5.5. Good choice, Judy. I haven't used Blushing Bride for a while. So again, I'm going to adhere my die cut. With multi-purpose glue. Just kind of putting the glue around some larger areas. Helps to have a little bit on the straight edges as well. I think that's pretty good. And remember, it's not necessary to have glue everywhere. All right. And then I'm ready to adhere this to the card front. Oops. I have my first few daffodils blooming yesterday and today. Well, maybe there were 2 on Monday, I think. So they're just starting, but I know they're going to get hit with frost, but it's still fun to see them blooming. All right, and now let's just add a simple sentiment. And this time, instead of stamping on white, I'm going to stamp my sentiment on Blushing Bride. Oops, where is my Blushing Bride? And I do not know where Blushing Bride is. Oh, here it is. It was in the wrong slot. And let's see, where are those sentiments again? Let's do a sympathy this time, with deepest sympathy. The pink does look beautiful. This is a really beautiful pink. Okay. And I like using different sentiments because not only do you see some of the different sentiments in the stamp set, but then you also get to see me use some of the different dies as well. You know what? I think I moved it. I'm going to put a little bit of washi tape on. Oh, goodness. And you know this card is going to need a touch of bling. So as I'm cutting this out and getting ready to add it to my card front with Stampin' Dimensionals, I want you to be thinking about what embellishments we can use to bling it up. And if you have a thought, type it in the comments. And yours just might be chosen if it's one I have. This could also go at the top, couldn't it? Let's put it at the top for just a change. No? I kind of like that when it's at the top, I can see some of the larger flowers. Let's do it this way. Butterflies, pearls. You know, I think I'm just about out of butterflies. Let me see. I'm pretty sure I am out of the butter. Oh, I have a few left. Ooh, those would look pretty, wouldn't they? So the butterflies, what else? Iridescent pearls. I kind of like those because they do pick up the colors that are around, like the Blushing Bride. I think I'll go with those. I love our traditional pearls, you know, our basic rhinestones and basic pearls, but I do love these just for that little bit of color that they pick up. Okay, and we'll leave that as such and move on. So here's the second card I'll be giving away. Do we have time for one more? If we have time for one more, I'll say I have time for one more. If you have time, I'd love for you to stick around for this third card, because I think it's kind of my favorite. I went ahead and did some stamping and die cutting previously to going live just for the sake of time. And I do need to, before I do all the die cutting, I do need to stamp one more flower. And I wanted to pull this out and show you, because when I stamp these flowers, you know, just like it says, they're two-tone. So two-tone Flora tells me I'm going to do some two-step stamping. So I'm going to use the same color for both steps. That is polished pink. But before I stamp the solid, I'm going to stamp off the ink and then stamp on to my cardstock. That gives me a much lighter shade, okay? And then I'm going to take the more detailed stamp, and I'm going to look and see before I start here, making sure I'm going the right direction. I'm going to take that more detailed stamp and stamp it at full strength ink. And that's how I get my two tones, my two shades of the polished pink. So now we're ready to do some die cutting, and I will probably be using my washi tape once again. And if you are able to stamp or to die cut more than one flower at a time, that's great. It just saves you a little bit of time. And I gotta get this lined up correctly here. Almost, there we go. You'll just save time. If you're not comfortable doing several die cuts at once, no worries. You just roll through with your dies a couple extra times. No big deal at all. And for these purple flowers, I used Orchid Oasis. And again, I did the same thing. I stamped off with the solid image to get a lighter shade. And then I stamped the details. I'll try to get one more on here. Then I stamped the details in the full strength ink. Oops, come on. Trying to get these plates lined up correctly. Okay, Mary, try again. All right. If you ever get in a situation like that where they won't seem to grab, the rollers don't seem to grab your plates, the center plate, the bottom cutting plate, push it in just a little bit and then have the top and bottom lined up together. Does that make sense? There we go. And now it goes right through. Unfortunately, when I dropped that die, it didn't go in the trash can. It just went on the floor. And I have to be honest, when I'm making a card, I'm not going to show you the sample yet because I think it's kind of a wow. But when I am doing a card that uses lots of pieces, I tend to cut like maybe some extra leaves or an extra flower, because that gives me more to work with when I'm making my final arrangement of the flowers or whatever images I'm working with. Just something I like to do when there's a lot of pieces, when I'm creating a scene or a bouquet, something like that. Now here you noticed I've got two of these leafy branches. This was stamped at full strength Granny Apple Green, and then I stamped off afterwards to get the lighter shade. All right, so I stamped once, stamped twice without re-inking. Which is a nice way. Sometimes people will use like maybe more than one shade of green, and that's okay. But if you don't have another shade that looks good with the one you have, then just do that. Just do the lighter shade. Oh, come on, Mary. There we go. And I'm going to cut 2 more images, and then we'll be all set to put our card together. And I think you're going to love this one. Oh, those are going to be too close together. If the images are too close together to have your dies side by side, run them through separately, because if they overlap while going through the machine, it will actually imprint the one onto the other, and that's no good. You'll actually be kind of damaging your die. So only do that if you have plenty of room for each of the dies. And you're going to love this last card. It's kind of a super wow. I must be like nervous or trying to hurry or something, because I'm not getting these plates lined up. And I usually zip right through this. I don't know what's going on tonight. Come on. I'm going to push that middle one back a little. There we go. And I moved the die. My goodness. Okay, does that ever happen to you? Please tell me it's not just me. Okay, now I'm getting frustrated. Have that problem a lot, Sharon? Yes, I find, and I think I'm rushing and not taking my time, but I do find that if you have your number 1 plate and your top cutting plate, the top number 2, lined up evenly with the middle one just pushed inside the 2 a little bit, that helps. The reason I think this is tricky, and I know with our large machine, we always said, even with our old Big Shot, we always said, make sure all the edges of all the plates, the sandwich, are lined up evenly together, right? These have much smaller rollers. So therefore, just changing that thickness a wee bit by pushing that middle plate back seems to help. So try that. I know I had somebody who lives nearby who she was not having any luck with her mini machine. Her husband wasn't. They were so frustrated. And they live about 15, 20 minutes from me. And they came over one evening with it. And I did it and it rolled right through. And she said, well, what did you do? What did you do? And that's what I did. That was the difference. Okay. And that's why we watch each other, right? That's why we share, because of, you know, you can pick up different, tricks of the trade, I'll call them, different tips from different people. And that was one, I don't remember who I picked it up from, but that certainly was one I was happy to learn. So if you're having trouble with your mini, getting your plates through, give that a try. In the comments now, tell me where you're all from. I'm always curious about this time, because 8 o'clock on a Wednesday, it's getting close to my witching hour, I'll say. My brain starts to shut down at this time of the evening. For a while I did it at 7, but I realized I had people from the west side of the USA watching, and oftentimes, or who wanted to watch, and oftentimes many of them couldn't because they were working or whatever. And I know there's no perfect time for everybody, but I'm just curious. I've got a little bit of this edge sticking beyond my the top of my card base. I'm just gonna use my snips and take that off. And now I'm ready to arrange all these beautiful pieces. And I'm going to start with the flowers. And I may or may not use all of these pieces, okay? I'm going to start with my flowers because those are the focal point, and I'm just going to put one dimensional in the center. And the reason I do it that way is I want to be able to tuck in other, what do I say? Other leaves and elements underneath and around them. And the leaves I'm going to adhere flat with some of my multi-purpose glue. That one jumped a little bit. Oh, those aren't very, obviously those dies, either I didn't have them set well when I ran them through the machine, or they moved a little bit because I didn't use my washi tape. And you know what? I don't have to skip using those. I can just trim off some of that excess white. You know I'm kind of frugal, right? If I've taken the time to stamp and die cut these leaves, I don't want to throw them out. So this is my way of fixing them up a bit so I can still put them to use. Anybody else like that? I know it seems like a silly thing, but why not? They're still usable. Oh, you know what I want to do? I'm gonna put this here instead because I want some of these, I want these bigger leaves right in here. I'm deciding if I want, I think I'm gonna put the lighter shade on the bottom. And maybe just a little bit higher than the other one. I'm gonna cut a little bit off the bottom because I want this to be a wee bit shorter than the one behind it. But do you see what I mean about just taking the time to have plenty of pieces and play with them until you get them in a position that you like or is pleasing to you? I think I'm actually going to use every one of these today. Trying to decide where I want that other one. Oh, I kind of like it that way. Ooh, what you thinking? I'm just gonna say, to me, this is a wow card. All right, it really, it's simple to make. It's a little time consuming with all the stamping and die cutting, right? But I think it says wow. I think it says this is special. So let's use this for a, what should we make it? Happy birthday, congratulations. Let's do congratulations. I haven't used that one yet. And I am going to stamp it with Granny Apple Green. And really this is a card that, where are my thin strips? Okay, I have a bunch of these. These strips are what are left over. When I make that, you know, I use the 5 1/4 by 4 inch white in most of my card bases on the inside. This is what's left over when I cut those. You know, you get 4 on a sheet. These are the strips that are left over, and I always keep them because they are perfect for things like this. Oops, not quite. That's better. And I don't save all of my scraps this size in every color. I really only save them like for the white, vanilla, maybe crumb cake. Some of the ones I use commonly or often for small, narrow sentiments like this. Okay, and do you all know the trick? My trick for getting both your angles cut evenly? You use the piece you cut off as the guide for cutting the same angle on the other end. And then they both have the same angle. And I do like to use my banner punches. In fact, I use them quite often, really. But if you don't have those, or if you just want something a little bit different, just doing that simple angle cut is quick, it's easy, and it's fun, right? All right, a little bit of embellishing. I'm going to, sorry, I'm choosing on this one. I already decided ahead of time. So let's see. I'm going to use 5 of these pastel sequins, pastel adhesive back sequins. Put one there. So 2 will be large, and then I'm going to use 3 small ones. All right, what do you think? So pretty, isn't it? And it's worth the extra time with all the stamping and die cutting. Now I want to show you, so here's my sample. There are 5 sizes of these flowers, these two-tone flowers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, from large, little smaller, medium, little smaller, smallest. All right, so I did an extra, and then of course I stamped extras of all the leaves and also my Orchid Oasis flowers. And look how I just lined them up a little bit differently. Here's the one I made for you, and here's my sample card. All right. Really the same basic card. I just flipped the side that I put the flowers on, changed out the sentiment. And this was the one demonstrating putting a color behind the die cut. You could also, vellum would be neat, use a colored card base and then maybe vellum, then the die cut and then vellum. That would even give you a different look. And then here's a sample of my white on white with a pop of color. Use that for my inspiration, but really changed it up by adding some gray granite ink around the front of the card base. And again, I'm using gray granite as my punch of color, but this card has more of a vintage feel, right? This card has more of a vintage feel than this one. This is kind of just clean, straight lines. But if you know somebody who likes that shabby chic or vintage look, just adding a little bit of that gray granite ink changes it up altogether. All right, so I've got 3 cards to give away tonight. What do you think of the cards? What do you think of the two-tone Flora bundle and the Something Fancy bundle? Two of my favorites in the mini catalog. And I have to be honest and tell you, I did not intend to buy the two-tone Flora. Just because, it's not that I don't like it, it's just that I have a lot of flowers. But when I got to thinking about how many were in here, the fact that you can do the 2 tones, you could even do 2 colors, maybe stamp the solid part of the flower in a yellow, maybe So Saffron or Daffodil Delight, and then stamp the detailed part of the flower with a Mango Melody or Pumpkin Pie. So you can use 2 different colors, or you can do exactly what I did, using 1 color, but stamping off for the solid and then stamping the ink at full strength for the detail. But just as I got to thinking about this, there's basically 5 different sizes of the same type of flower, plus the little other flower accents. Even these in here, aren't these cute? Those would be cute to just stamp around a group of flowers as another little accent. But that's what made me, giving this some second thoughts and a third thought and a fourth thought probably, that's what made me decide I could really make some pretty arrangements in all different colors all year long. I could even do this in fall colors, right? Or bright reds and yellows for the summer. Think of geraniums and marigolds, right? Do those bright, vibrant colors. And then maybe like a crushed curry and a pumpkin pie for fall. So I figured this can get me all through the year, and it allows me to mix and match. So if you are interested in having your name put into the drawing to receive one of these cards, please type in the comments now. Oh, I think we did two-tone Flora the other day, didn't we? I think we did. So let's switch it out this time and do something fancy. That's where all the sentiments came from. Something fancy. And remember, this has that wonderful die set to go with it. Here's just some of the dies, not including the ones I used on my samples and on tonight's card. There's a couple others here. Where are they? So another really good set. And again, the sentiment stamp set alone is fabulous. But when you pair it with the dies, it's even better. And then don't forget, you can use these dies to cut out lots of other sentiments and even some images. And these too, right here, wouldn't these make great hanging tags on gift bags or on a little present? So Anyways, I have to remember that next time I give a little present. I don't know when that will be. Let's see well, John, my son-in-law, has a birthday next month. And then we'll have the baby shower. So maybe I'll make some tags with that. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed tonight's card making demonstration. Again, if you would like your name entered into the drawing to receive one of these cards, please type in the comments now something fancy. So far, I only see 2 people have typed something fancy. And I know more of you would like to receive one of these cards. All right, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Happy stamping and a happy spring. Take care.